You ready? Good afternoon. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Escambia County's Children's Trust Board of Directors to order at 3:30 p.m. As a reminder, please turn off cell phones or place them on silent mode to avoid any interruptions. There will be an opportunity for public comment after the meeting, later in the meeting. Please be sure to complete the public speaker form located at the table to the left of the podium. Should be over there, and turn it in to Ms. Ellis. Ms. Ellis, please raise your hand so they know who you are. Thank you. And now, let's proceed. Roll call, Ms. Ellis, please.
Commissioner May, Tina Kane, Stephanie White,
Here.
David Peden,
Here.
Tori Woods,
Present.
Patty Hightower,
Present.
Judge Harris, Keith Leonard,
Here.
and Dr. Northup. Thank you.
Thank you. In the absence of Commissioner May, Ms. Hightower, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hightower. We have a very brief agenda. If everyone has reviewed it, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So
Move to
moved.
approve.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor of approving the agenda?
No public speaking on the agenda item?
As stated earlier, we will have public comment after the meeting. Thank you.
And each of these items will be discussed because the agenda that was sent out was not quite this complete, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
So, again, agenda has been approved. Moving on to the business portion of the meeting, our Executive Director, Ms. Tammy Greer, has rendered her resignation with an effective date of October 15th. The purpose of this emergency meeting is to discuss the next steps. A list of transition items have been prepared, and we will go through those now. The Executive Director exit process, appointment of interim Executive Director, resolution for check signers. So I guess starting with the Executive Director exit process. Do you have that?
Who is leading that discussion? Do we need to have a motion to accept her letter of resignation? Is that our first item?
So, most appropriately, yes, I believe that would be, the next appropriate step would be that the board would have a motion to accept the resignation pursuant to her contract. As a voluntary resignation, she's required to give 60 days' notice, which she did, with a term date being October 15th. Within that section of the contract, it allows that the board can make that resignation effective immediately, with the requirement that she be paid for the 60 days. So if that would be the intent of the board, then I would suggest that the motion be to accept the resignation and have it either effective immediately or have it as outlined in her letter of resignation.
So may I get a motion to accept the resignation later? Is that what you're saying, right? Accept the letter?
So the next appropriate step would be if the board wishes to accept the letter of resignation and then address the final date of employment.
That's where my question is. I mean, do we have to do that all as one motion, or can we accept the resignation and then have some discussion? Or is it better, because if we accept her letter of resignation, it has a date on it.
So you can accept the letter of resignation and still address the final date for her employment. The way the contract reads, she gives the 60-day notice, which is outlined in the letter, but then it's within the discretion of the board whether or not to move that termination date up and make it effective immediately or effective at some other date within the 60-day period, or wait to the end of the 60-day notice period.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation effective immediately relieve Ms. Greer of her duties today, pay her through with the stated contract. I think the date would be October 15th, 2023, will be her last day. And then we can discuss, we'll get to the next step first, but that motion right there is to accept it immediately, effective today.
May I get a second?
I'll second that, and before we vote, we do need to have public comment on this, correct? Yes. Okay. On this action.
I have a question related to the motion. When you say, I'd like to have a little more specificity in, we will pay her, does she get her benefits, et cetera? I mean, that's,
Yes, through October 15th, she will continue to be paid with benefits.
as if she were here.
Correct.
Okay.
So how do you think we should have public comment before we vote on
Yes,
this?
before we vote on this, we need to have public comment on this agenda item. Is there any,
But there's already been a motion and a second. I mean, public comment has to be before the motion's made, correct?
We haven't voted yet.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Do we have any public comment on this agenda item? Ms. Alma would need your paper, ma'am.
Well, I don't even know how to fill this out because I don't understand the agenda. So and I only saw the new agenda right now, so it looks like this is one action item with three, like a subset of three different things. So I don't even know how to fill out the speaker card. I didn't necessarily want to speak to this portion of it. I was hoping to be able to speak before the selection of an interim or whatever else, so I don't know how to fill that out.
Okay, well, we will have public comment before we discuss the next agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this agenda item? Comment from the board, discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. So, agenda item approved. We are accepting her letter of resignation effective immediately and will pay out her benefits and pay till October the 15th. The next agenda item is the appointment of the interim executive director. Do we have any public comment on that agenda item? Yes, ma'am.
I'll get these to you once I can make sure I can fill them out properly, because it says I wish to make a comment on the following agenda items, and then there's a separate thing for action items. But it's not even listed on the agenda what's action items and discussion. And so Melissa Pina, 413 Southeast Boblets. I'm not aware whether you guys have been seating time. Do you guys seed time on this board like you do on the school board, Ms. Hightower? No, do you allow somebody else to cede time? Can I have Kevin's time? I don't know if you guys have been doing that.
Yeah, I don't think it's in our policy that happens.
Okay. I would really appreciate it if you would start over my minutes, since I was just trying to figure out like where this is on the agenda. I wanted to thank the members of the board that had the courage and the ethics and the morals to try to get this ship right at the last meeting. As some of you will remember, Kevin and I had been down a few months ago, just hoping against hope that something would happen, that the kids in this community who need this money would get it. And we just stopped coming. We just gave up because there didn't seem to be any will at all from the policymakers to take control of the chaos that was happening. And this is just, I didn't do this as theater, but it's so apropos of the way this is all run. I mean, can't even, I don't understand why, with all of the intelligent people on this policy board and in the staff and administration, you guys can't even run an agenda. And whoever is interim, and I said, I'm sure you'll remember, Ms. Woods, I got up and I said, why are you not making Ms. Woods the vice chair? Why isn't this following procedure? Just as I did down at the school board, and I said, this is nothing against Mr. Leonard, but not in agreement with not taking the person. So Dr. Krupa would seem to be the person that should step in as interim. And if for whatever reason she doesn't want it, then you go down the list. There's so many things that are pro forma that you don't follow, and there are a reason for these norms because they work, their functionality. And we've got, Mr. Leonard may end up being the best superintendent that Escambia County school systems have ever had, and our schools are a mess. And it's not his fault. We've got woke culture wars going on. We've got rampant racism, bigotry, anti-LGBTQ. Now we got to deal with anti-Semitism. This trust is more and more crucial every day because it's going to be a while, and this isn't Ms. Hightower's fault. Ms. Hightower knows what board members I was railing against when I was down at the last school board meeting. They need you guys. This is a lot of money. These poor kids need this money. So stop the operations except for the grants that are ongoing right now. Stop the strategy, stop the bleeding. I'd throw out the committees, the policy. You guys ceded power of your policy. You're a policy board, and all of the members ceded their power over policy to a couple of people on a policy committee. And you guys still don't have working, functional policies. That was about the only thing that I disagreed with Mr. Leonard in the last meeting, was just not taking that procedure to policy. Because maybe after you've been around this board for a while, you'll see procedure doesn't do much. Of course, the policies are a little wonky too. Please start functioning in a manner that gets the kids that need this money. Nobody else can do it but the policy board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the agenda item?
Kevin Wade, 413 Southeast Boblets. Yep. I've come and spoke quite a few times. And honestly, the Byzantine layers of committee is kind of bewildering, and honestly, the policy as well. I'm hoping that this ship rights, and I spoke before about not ready for prime time, and I'm hoping this is the moment for a pretty good reset, because all of you are just amazing, smart people who get this right. And I've heard some things that have astounded me, like the building a building. And okay, so my question is, we're going to have someone hired as interim who's going to be leading a charge to build a building, and I don't even know honestly where Impact 100 meets. I think there's some people in this room who do know where Impact 100 meets. Don't know that they have a building, and that is one of those groups that gets help to the community and does it in just such a wonderfully just phenomenal way. And need to be ready for prime time. This is about entirely helping the children in this area who have growing up in a not ready for prime time system. And I really believe that this entire thing can move towards ready for prime time. Please, if it takes a big reset, do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other? So the current.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so in terms of just in house cleaning and protocol, will it be the attorney, the chair, who will be responsible for collecting keys, swabs, computers, passcodes, and all that? Who's taking care of that? I mean, I don't know if you'd have someone that's subordinate to a executive doing that. I mean, I think it should be someone of their equal or higher.
I believe that was maybe the next agenda item or down the list of, is that correct? We're going to discuss that, yep.
So we have already collected the credit card, and the computer and keys are to be turned in the morning. We've already arranged it.
Guess they're ahead of us.
So we are currently on the appointment of the interim executive director. Do we have any suggestions?
I would like to motion to approve Tammy Abrams. I've spoken to both Dr. Krupa and Tammy Abrams, the two of them, and they're both under the conclusion that Ms. Abrams would be the logical person right now, given Dr. Krupa's involvement in her grants.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Aye.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we determining interim until such time as,
I would say we've got a policy committee. Thank you, Mel Pena, for putting policy in my head. They have a personnel committee
Yeah.
meeting coming up, and let's, we can talk through that, then, what that looks like with our interim, but not to get in that today.
and so what would be the anticipated duties of this interim executive director?
That's a great question, and Ms. Abrams can elaborate as well. I did talk to her, and we said, basically she needs to continue to do what she's doing, definitely with the financial. She was doing a great job with that. She's an interviewing person right now, correct, for an assistant to her. And then she's going to continue, she's going to manage the people. She's not going to be in the community doing speeches. She assured me that public speaking is not her forte, and I'll let her speak to that, but she's going to be managing the people and making sure that, Mr. Moore is getting the word out about what we are doing with our grants. So, and I'll let her speak to, or anyone else.
Yes, I have actually hired a person who will be starting Monday to help in the financial area. And most of my duties will stay the same in the Director of Finance and Operations, but I will be working with each of the team members to make sure we're carrying out all the duties that we need to keep the operations going.
One more question? What are we going to compensate the interim executive director at the same level as the director was?
That's where I wanted to get to the personnel committee and just discuss that,
Okay, so those
We'll
decisions
bring it-
have not been made.
and then we'll bring it back to the board.
So you'll bring that back, Mr. Peden?
Yes.
And then if we do decide to increase it for the time being or leave it, if we do decide to increase it, we would go back to today's date or tomorrow's date or whenever we made her interim recommendation.
We can discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously someone should be compensated for taking on responsibility, but I think we'll work that out. But in all fairness, I mean, I'm supportive of the motion, but I know that there have been people in the community that have reached out. And no, Carol in Appleyard led the way. I don't think she wants it, but I mean, she's been there. Walker Wilson's name has been thrown up, so they're both here, and they're both are good friends. So I certainly know that there are other capable people that are qualified, but I think it's great to have somebody that's in-house. But it's one thing that I believe we should do as a part of this motion. I don't know who made it. I know she's bringing someone else on, that all hiring is froze at this point because we got to have new leadership. And the worst thing in the world is to hire people and bring a new executive director and have to work with a team that's not their team. And so one of the things that I've always been supportive of is that the ED gets their team. You either win or lose with your team. And so I don't want, I think Mr. Leonard's shaking his head, he understands that, that we don't hire anybody else until we have a permanent executive director. And that's a friendly amendment to that
Can that
motion.
be a separate motion after this one?
I mean, it wouldn't be a separate motion. I'd take it as a friendly amendment to this motion to add it to it, or I'm happy to make that motion after. But if you would accept it as a friendly amendment that we freeze hiring, I won't make the motion, or if not, I will make the motion.
I'll accept it as a friendly amendment, but if it's cleaner for, is it cleaner the other way? For legal or for? No. Okay, we accept that. So the motion to make Ms. Abrams the interim and to freeze all other hiring at this point.
Correct.
We have a motion, discussion. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion with the friendly amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion passes. So next on the agenda is the resolution for check signer. Do we need to have public comment before this item as well? Any public comment on this agenda item? So resolution for check signer. Staff has prepared resolution 2023-19, authorizing replacement of executive director to bank accounts as signatory, providing for an effective date. Do you have the resolution? Thank you. Resolution of Escambia County Children's Trust authorizing replacement of executive director to bank accounts as a signature, providing for effective date. Whereas the Escambia County Children's Trust has a current bank account in the name of Escambia County Trust with Hancock Bank at 2185 Airport Boulevard, Pensacola, Florida, 32504. Whereas Escambia County Trust has a new interim director, and whereas the county desires to designate an interim director as the agent authorizing to transact business and execute documents on behalf of the company for the purposes of banking. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Escambia Children's Trust that Tammy Abram, interim executive director, is hereby authorized on behalf of the Escambia Children's Trust to sign, execute, and deliver in the manner herein contained checks or orders on behalf of said company to respect the operations of the account. Former Executive Director Tammy Abram shall be removed from signatory of the bank accounts. Duly adopted in emergency session this 17th day, August 2023.
Read that, you said Tammy, to remove Tammy Abrams.
I'm sorry. Former Executive Director Tammy Greer.
Okay,
Sorry, two Tammys.
I know, I just wanted to make sure it was correct on there.
Yes, ma'am. Former Executive Director Tammy Greer. That is the resolution. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I would like
Oh, sorry.
just one little comment.
Yes, sir.
It really is for you, being the individual that is in charge of the finances and also the individual that will be leading this trust. Are you comfortable without that audit trail, or do you believe that we perhaps should have someone else also be required to be on each signature?
We currently have where the executive director and a board member has to sign for every withdrawal or check we write.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make certain that you are comfortable knowing that you are serving in both of those roles from an audit perspective.
I would definitely not be if we didn't have the second signature.
All right.
And speaking of that, I meet with her quite frequently, and we go over in depth every transaction, line by line, before I approve or sign anything.
I just felt it important in this setting to ask
Yes.
that question.
Of course.
Well,
Thank you for
because
the time.
our auditors are often sharing with us that if the same person is writing the checks and doing the deposits and everything, that is definitely something that will be written up on the audit.
So when my new person starts next week, I will no longer be writing the checks, he will. So there will be an approval process where it shows he input the items, and then it goes through to me and then to Tori or David, whichever one is available that week, to review and sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution passes. So now we are to public comment. Now, before we close the meeting, are there any public comments? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblets. one of the most impressive organizations that I've ever seen anywhere is Gulf Coast Kids House. And I was really grateful to Mr. Peden a few years ago for helping me set up a tour through there so that I could understand better how it worked. And I was absolutely blown away by Stacy Kostovicki. I hope I said her last name right. She's an absolutely amazing individual. I literally left there with my mind blown. That person is out there for this trust. And I don't mean to say that to disparage Ms. Greer. I wish her well, and I'm sure that she will find a place that's a better fit for her. But this role requires somebody who thrives in politics and hurting. Okay, there's no putting politics aside in this role. If you can't handle it, get out of the kitchen. And it's got to be somebody that thrives on understanding that everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time in the morning. Maybe not Sheriff Simmons. He might jump into him like Superman. Well, that probably wasn't a very good thing. But a person in that role will gain everyone's respect if they just keep the straight line and keep the moral compass and remember. And I do feel sorry for Ms. Greer because I think she was a little surprised and buffeted by all of that. I don't condone the way that she would try to do what she did when things got rough. That part of it cannot be condoned at all. But someone can thrive in this role, and these kids need it. And so I hope that you guys start the RFP process as professionally and quickly as possible. And everything else needs to be stopped. You guys have grants that are ongoing. Those need to be administered. They'll be coming for renewals. Those need to be administered. That is literally the only crucial business that this trust has right now. And there is no reason to be plowing through with any strategy planning. ID group will wait. And I'm sure that after the lackluster returns at those town halls, that's got to be done over. So give the interim a chance to stabilize things and give the staff the first chance that they've had. They haven't really had a chance to really get this thing going in the right direction. Support them by not continuing the policy chaos. And really, the policy board needs to perhaps consider getting rid of these committees. Unless they're statutorily necessary, which I'm unaware of, but I cannot imagine, Ms. Hightower, how the heck would the school board ever get anything done if they had to put it through 9 committees before you guys did any action?
We kind of do.
Well,
I'm sorry, they're not committees, they're departments, and they're sub-compartments.
and that's a big difference, is departments and your different school board members don't sit 2 per committee on every committee in those things.
No, but you know, I just wanted you to know that it's been vetted many times before it gets to us, and I would suspect that the commissioner would say the same thing.
There's a difference between staff and committees where policy board members sit the committees. I don't know of another example of this model anywhere. There's a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? So we are,
Could we make a statement, please?
oh, yes, ma'am. That was next board
Okay.
comment. I had mine written out. But you're welcome to go first.
Well, I applaud Ms. Greer because she did take us from from not really trying to get us together. And I think that as often happens at the school district, some of the positive things that have happened, the things that we have done, get lost in the, to use some other words, drama of everything else that's happening. And I don't want us to miss that. There's been a lot accomplished. We've given out funds. There are good things happening, and Mr. Moore is going to make sure that our community is aware of the good things that are happening. And I wish Ms. Greer good luck in her next endeavor. But one thing I would like to make sure we as a board do, maybe with the interim and maybe, but assuredly when we get a new one, is for us to decide who we are as a board. A good friend of mine that I mentioned to him, I said, would you like an interim position? Because And he said, no, he's lost his patience. But one of the things he pointed out to me that I had not really stopped to think about, it was kind of in my brain, but I had not stopped to think about it. On many boards, they're selected by that organization. They already have a relationship with the people that are the executive director and the members of that board. This board, many of us came because we were a part of an organization that gets to sit here. Others were appointed because you applied and got to be here. And I think that we as a board need to, as Ms. Pino points out, are we a policy board or are we an operational board? And I think that will go a long way with the next executive director knowing their roles and responsibilities if we make that decision as a board as to what our role is. So I just wanted to say that, so as we start talking and moving forward, we have that in our minds.
So, two things, Patty. We met with ID Group yesterday, and that was one of the items on the list as far as like what our leadership roles are and, how that is going to look for the board. So we were also kind of working that out, which I'm sure like they're going to talk to the board about. As a board chair, I do want to say thank you to Ms. Greer. Like Ms. Hightower said, she's done a lot. I think it's Pensacola. As the only Black female on this board, I'm used to the microaggressions. Since I have become the board chair, the microaggressions have not stopped. There have been people replaced on this board. My job, which has absolutely nothing to do with this position, has been threatened because of my integrity. I hope that the board, thinks of that when they are making comments or, speaking to anybody in the community. The things that you say about me or anybody else on this board affects us not only here, but our personal lives. I can't help run this board if I have to worry about somebody threatening my work position, which absolutely has nothing to do with this position. The politics, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not here for the politics, and I don't think politics should have anything to do with what I do outside of coming here and trying to help Escambia County's children be the best that they can be. So I just want to let that be known. I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate the threats. What I do outside of this board in my personal life and what I do for my job has absolutely nothing to do with the decisions I make here. I also appreciate the community's patience. What happened in the last 48 hours is unprecedented. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have anything in writing. So we are working through this as the best that we know. I think the staff is doing a great job with, trying to hold things together. I appreciate all of you. This work is hard. I've spent countless hours away from my son, my husband, my family to be here to help children. I have read thousands of pages, hundreds of pages of grants to help children. I don't get compensated for that. I don't want to be compensated for it. I do it because I want Escambia County to be a better place. That's why I'm here. Everything I do it with integrity. I'm sure the rest of the board feels the same way. So, I appreciate everyone's patience. We do have open board positions. So if anybody thinks that they would love to help us, we would love for you to apply for those positions. I mean, that's why we're here. So, I know a lot of you guys come. So if there is an option, please consider that. We do have like public comment, every meeting. We have meetings posted online. So, I know the community cares about the trust, but we would love to see you guys here because as the board chair, I have received one call or one concern from one community member since I've been the board chair. So whenever we come to these meetings and all of this stuff comes to pass, I have no idea. So I think like chain of command and like making sure that we all understand. If there's a concern you have, our emails are online, we have the meetings here, we have other meetings. Please come and help us help make Escambia County better. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to say to Ms. Greer as well, thank her for the job she did. She's not here today. She could have been here. She thought about coming, and we just said, look, it's best everybody moves forward And she sent everybody a very positive and lifting text. And of course, I wish her well, and I believe that she will find a good fit at another organization and be a positive role for them. As far as our trust in our community, I truly believe that the monies that we are allocating out to the nonprofits are making a difference. I think that we've got to do a better job explaining to the community what we're doing, who we're funding, why we're funding it, and what the outcomes are. And I think we'll get to that point because there is a lot of good. It's been buried with other things that have happened to us, but I do know that the people in the community, the people here in this room, the nonprofit leaders I'm looking at right now, they all care about this trust, and there's a lot of people outside of this room that care about this trust. So I appreciate the support from the community. I just ask you to be patient and let us get our legs under us. Let's get the right person for this job, and hopefully it will be smooth sailing from here, and we can work together to build a better community. Thank you.
Just on everything David said, I'm very proud of what we've done so far in the community. Dr. Krupa and the whole staff has worked very hard, so thank you for that. And we're excited for Mr. Moore to be on to tell everyone what we've done. And we see lots of providers here, so who are already helping and getting the kids. Help Me Grow is here, and Andrea's here, so we're so excited that they're here to, and we have lots of great with the mental health already on Monday. The task force is meeting, so we have some great excitement for the mental health proposals that have already been submitted. So thank you to the staff, and thank you to Ms. Greer. We've enjoyed working with her, and we wish her best. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I respect anyone that's in leadership that puts themselves out, because it is. I mean, when people get mad at you, they get mad at your family, and they write horrible things, they say things. 99% of them are not true. I mean, it's just, leadership is just not for everybody. And so you'll find that people are going to scrutinize you if you're doing something. If you're not doing anything, no one's going to say anything about you because you're not doing anything. So my parents always taught me, if you're doing something, people are talking about you. So continue to do what you're doing, and people continue to talk. If you stop doing anything, they'll just stop talking. So just keep doing what you're doing. And certainly, I applaud any staff that works in public service. Although people are paid, I mean, it's hard. In your private life, in my private business, it's no one's business. But when you take public dollars, you're subject to a lot of bosses. Every single person that pays a tax thinks that they're your boss. I mean, they think that they're our staff's boss. I mean, that's just par for the course. So I want to thank Tammy for serving. And today, as I thought about this, I don't really read into the politics, but as we look at all these strategic plans and all the dial sessions we had, I looked at some of the collateral material, and I see Rusty Branch out there. And when it came out of Achieve, and Kim Krupta was there, I mean, one of the main reasons for this trust was to bridge the achievement gap of children in Escambia County. I mean, that's why it came out. I mean, because we had so many disparities, we had so much poverty, and the goal of this thing was to bridge the achievement gap. And to me, it's that simple. And we can't lose that focus. I know a lot of people like to come and change the mission. Oh, we want to help all the children. We want to equally distribute the money throughout the entire county. That was not sold. What was sold was to bridge the achievement gap, particularly for our children who are living in the pocket of poverty. And I think that we cannot lose sight of that mission. We want to help all children. Eventually we will. You can't help everybody in one swap. I mean, it's not. I mean, the poor will have been here. They will be here. You're going to have disparities. But I just hope that we get back on track to the mission that was sold to the taxpayers. And that was bridging the achievement gap for the least of them in our community. And for me, that's why I serve, and I hope that's what we're beginning to do. I want to help all children. All children don't necessarily need someone to fill their gap because they have parents, they have resources. We need to, in my opinion, be addressing those least of them that are in those pockets of poverty that I know you work so hard in Addis Court, and I work so hard in Morris Court. We know where the failing schools are. We know exactly where the Globals and the Montclairs and the Link Parks, we know that's where the problem is. And we got to laser focus that, or we can continue to spread ourselves thin politically to give everybody a little bit instead of going in and concentrating in fulfilling what we said that we were going to do in the collateral material. And sometimes I'm an antagonist on this board. But I'll tell you, I was the only elected official that came out, and I think Patty did, supporting this tax, because no one likes a tax increase. And we have to be accountable to the citizens because it's not a given, whether it's a half-cent sales tax, keeps renewing it, and because it's effective and we're building schools. Penny for progress, all those things. Citizens are going to hold us accountable at the end of the day for how we spend these dollars. So to me, it's important for the policy part and the fiduciary part that we hold ourselves accountable and show that leadership. So Tori, I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you. And I want to say, I know yesterday when we were speaking with ID Group, on one of the slides, what was it? Was it equitable? What was the word that we were, was it equitable? One of the slides that we talked about as far as making sure that we equitably be able to help children, which, again, that's what we want to address, those kids that need that. And I agree with you with the political side. My concern is it has nothing to do with my job. Like, you can speak about me, but when you speak to my employer about things that have nothing to do with what this trust, that's a different when you attack and say things that aren't true about my work, because my work ethic speaks for itself. Anybody that knows me in the community knows the work I do, but it's just disheartening that people would stoop that low to lie about something separate of the trust because you don't like that. I want to make sure that the children in need are helped, and not
Exactly.
who you want to be helped.
And you got to feed your family, no matter your public service.
Exactly.
Ms. Woods, I'll be brief. I just want to make sure that, take this opportunity to thank Tammy Greer for the work she's done. I'll make sure that I take the time to talk to her privately as well. And Ms. Abrams, I walk in the shoes of interim. It is not immune to work and/or issues. So thank you for being willing to take on that responsibility. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Tammy. Any more comment? If not, we can adjourn the meeting at 4:12.
Oh, we can take a 10-minute meeting and make it an hour anytime.
Thank you.